So it's been a while since I've made a video. Mainly it's because, well, over break I haven't been playing a lot of like online Yu-Gi-Oh! Over here, like serious Yu-Gi-Oh! I was playing like mainly locals and stuff, and nothing really interesting was happening. I was playing the same spellbook deck that I profiled like 2 months ago, and that was kind of fun, I guess. There was a deck from the recent ARG event in Orlando. I believe it was Orlando, and it was piloted by Korey McDuffie, who was our recent national champion, if you guys don't know. He's also very active on the Facebook group Zodiac Duelist, and he was definitely hyping up this deck that he was going to play at the event, but not really revealing anything about it. A lot of people were predicting that it was some sort of hat variant, which it kind of was, I guess, of just like artifacts, and then it splashes trap tricks because they're like decent monsters. The deck is kind of interesting. I've played about 10-15 games with it. What everyone says about the deck is that it beats Burning Abyss fairly well, and it kind of does that job because your artifacts in the back row will bait the Fire Lake, and then they'll resolve. There are a lot of inconsistencies with the deck, mainly because you're running like Curry Bandit to try and get your plays started, and since it is like a chance-based effect, you could just send 5 spells and none of your monsters to the graveyard, so your call is still dead in your hand. But yeah, it is kind of essential. You'd replace the Curry Bandit with a spell card instead of just summoning it and it not giving you anything. But yeah, the deck is just inherently a little bit slow in that aspect. Whereas like Shadal's, they're making like 2800 beaters while maintaining like the 5-card opening hand. Or Burning Abyss, which makes Dante's and goes plus on the first turn, which is just kind of a little bit unfair, but it's how the game is. Vermilio does help you actually go plus in the deck, which is good, because then from going plus, you just 1-for-1 until you get into a super simplified game state, and then you hope to draw into your Dianaias or your Soul Charge, or like Sanctums, something like that, and then just win out the game from there. Because you don't win in like ultra complicated game states, or when your opponent has like a whole bunch of like threats on the board. So you just try to neutralize those. You don't really care a whole lot about card advantage after like the initial first couple of turns, because then you're just trying to like counter their threats and then just push in for damage where you can. Which is like an interesting like theory, I guess. I mean, it kind of works. Deck does actually beat other decks other than Burning Abyss, which is like the main criticism that the deck has. Like, it's just like, oh, it's just beat Burning Abyss deck, and it actually does hold its own against a couple of other decks. You won't beat Satellar Knights, and I don't know how this deck does against a lot of the other decks, but it did beat Mermail, which is bizarre and surprising. I don't know. It does actually have a decent matchup against Cliffort, if only because you play 6 cards that destroy spells and traps, and technically 7 or 8. And technically 9 if you still have your Boral in your deck, and you have your Sanctums. And then, like, if you mill off Emilio and you open up Curry Bandit Call Haunted, that's also an MST. So, like, you do have a lot of spell and trap destruction, so you do well against that. But, like, the main problem with the deck is that it just doesn't have, like, win conditions, I guess. Because, like, mainly you're hoping to Curry Bandit really well, and then you resolve with Soul Charge, and then that's how you can, like, win the game. But Soul Charge is at 1. Like, and Call the Haunted, like, kinda does something like that, but it's just, like, not nearly as, like, impacting. Like, a lot of games I won were just because I had Snatch Steal or, like, Mind Control or something, and I poked in for, like, a little bit of damage in the early game. And, yeah. The other thing that I noted about the side deck was that it just doesn't have anything for Shadal. Like, you have Defusion, and that doesn't do anything. And then you have Monarch Storm's Forth and Majesty's Fiend, which does do something. Like, it's like good, but you need both pieces in order for it to do anything. Because once they have a construct out, you kind of just lose. Because nothing in your deck really gets over it. Like, I guess you have Grand Mole. And then, like, if you even do get over it, like, let's say you, like, Dianaya, Vermilio, and then go into, like, Castel or something to get it off the board. Like, then you set up an extra deck monster, and they can should all fuse you to death, and then you lose that way. you really just don't have a solid game plan. Denko shuts you down entirely. Like, you have one answer to it in the main deck, 2 or 3. Like, you have to have Mind Control or your Snatch Steal or your Solemn Warning, or else you just kind of lose to that card. Or you have to like summon Dianai and crash into it, which is terrible. Since it isn't like very versatile and it just doesn't like do anything else, like it'll just lose to more powerful decks that like can beat basically everything, where this deck is like a pigeonhole where it can only beat Burning Abyss, and if you play other things then you have like less of a chance. Like, it is still 50-50 against Clifford's because like they can go sacrifice Guy and then you just can't beat that until you can set up your Dianaya. So there's that. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. It was a little bit rambly, like kind of how all these videos are, but hopefully you will try out this deck, maybe innovate it a little bit. In Corey's video, which I'll link in the description, he said to take out the Night Beams, which I definitely agree with. Probably change up his extra deck a little bit. Like, some of the cards in there just don't do anything, I guess. Thank you guys for watching. This is Smashing Pumpkin signing out. Peace.